Power doesn't announce itself. Studies you first. It learns your patterns, waits for an opening, and then sits exactly where you thought you were safest. I recognize that the day my past knocked without a name. My name is Sienna Ward. I am 32. I work as a lead strategist at Holbrook & Ross, a financial crisis consulting firm in Manhattan. My job is to calculate risk before it becomes scandal, to shut fires down before clients smell smoke, and to make problems disappear without leaving a bruise. People think I'm calm by nature. They don't know I was built, not born. I did not enter this industry with my legal birth name. That identity was stripped, rewritten, and locked away before I turned 18. I carry my mother's chosen surname now and the documentation I forged with the help of a lawyer who never asked why a teenage girl needed a new life. My original name belonged to a family that carved itself into debt and disgrace. I left it behind with a promise never to touch it again. But someone else did. Last Thursday, my assistant left 3 unmarked documents on my desk. No sender. No cover letter. Just a single typed line on the first page. We found her. Taped beneath that line was a photograph. Most people would see a stranger. I saw the shape of my own face in a different life. Same jawline, same scar under the brow, same eyes that used to look back at me in mirrors before I renamed myself. It wasn't a sister. Not a cousin. It was the woman using my birth identity. I had assumed she was dead. The second page was a bank statement. The account name wasn't Sienna Ward. It was the name I was born with. And someone had been receiving quarterly transfers under it for 4 years from a London-based investment firm. The third page was a scanned passport. Same birth name. A photo close enough to pass. And underneath it, a power of attorney document with a signature that almost matched mine. Not close enough to fool me. Close enough to fool a court. She was scheduled to appear next week at a closed-door financial ethics summit in Washington under my former identity. Someone clearly wanted her seen in the right room under the wrong name. My pulse didn't spike. My hands didn't shake. Panic is loud. The thing I felt was quiet and organized. I canceled my meetings, locked my office, and pulled the camera logs from our floor. It took less than an hour to spot who had delivered the file. The footage was blurry, but the left hand gave him away. Silver ring, index finger, a habit only one person I knew ever had. Vonahale. My former supervisor. A man who left the firm 3 years ago for private intelligence work. He didn't tell me why he left. He didn't tell me where he went. And now he was back long enough to drop a warning on my desk and vanish. At 11:03 a.m., my phone buzzed with a blocked message. She knows already. No name. No context. But I understood. Someone wasn't just using my past. Someone was playing both of us against each other. I looked at the photograph again. If she was alive, she didn't just borrow my history. Someone handed it to her. And for the first time in years, I was willing to take it back. I didn't go home that night. I went somewhere no one from my current life knows exists, a storage unit in Jersey City registered under a name I haven't spoken out loud since I was 17. Inside were 2 locked cases. One with the documents I kept, and one with the documents I stole before I left. I opened the second one. Birth certificate. Hospital record. Expired passport. A newspaper clipping about my biological father's trial. And a single-page custody transfer that legally erased me from my own bloodline. None of it mentioned a second claimant. No twin. No sibling. No relative close enough to wear my face. So whoever she was, someone built her using the remains. At 2:14 a.m., I emailed a man I hadn't contacted in 5 years. Ravichan. He forges identities, tracks false ones, and never asks about morality if you pay double. I sent him 3 things. The passport scan, the power of attorney copy, and a picture of the bank statement. I added 1 line. Find the origin. Not the woman. The builder. By the time the sun rose, he replied with a location pin and 4 words. You know this place. I did. It was the law firm that handled my paperwork when I changed my name. A discreet 3-story building in Queens that pretends to only do immigration cases. I hadn't stepped inside since the day I signed away my past. I didn't call ahead. I arrived at 9:05 a.m., walked through the front door, and asked for the only person who could have accessed my sealed records. Margot Lane. Senior partner. Artificial smile. Memory like wet cement. She recognized me immediately, even under the name I use now. You were never supposed to come back, she said. I wasn't supposed to have a twin either, I replied. That flicker in her eyes lasted less than half a breath, but it was enough. I placed the forged power of attorney on her desk. Someone signed this in my name. You notarized it. She didn't deny it. Clients reuse identities all the time, she said. It isn't always criminal. It is when they're using mine. She exhaled slowly, then opened a drawer and pulled out a folded page with handwriting I recognized too well, my mother's. I didn't sit. I didn't blink. Who else saw this file? I asked. Margot hesitated. 2 years ago, a woman came with documentation from your mother. She claimed to be you under your birth name. She said you wanted a paper trail restored. The signature matched. The photo was convincing. The payment cleared. I tapped the desk once with my finger. Her name. I don't know her name, Margot said. But I know who paid her. I waited. Margot slid a card across the desk. Not a name. A private equity firm in London. Harlan Finch Partners. I knew that name too. They were the same firm listed on the bank transfers, which meant someone there wasn't just using my identity. They were funding it. As I turned to leave, Margot said something that stopped me. She didn't want your life, she said. She wanted your access. That difference mattered. I walked out without responding, because one truth had already crystallized. This wasn't identity theft. This was identity placement. And whoever put her in my place thought I wouldn't return to claim it. They were wrong. I didn't go after the woman. Not yet. You don't chase the mask before you find the hand holding it. Harlan Finch Partners had a satellite office in Midtown under a different name. Rothwell Strategic Advisory. I'd seen their logo once on a sponsorship banner at a finance summit. Polished, forgettable, rich enough to stay quiet. I walked into their lobby at noon with a blazer that said consultant and a face that said appointment. Reception didn't question me. Money buys invisibility, and I looked expensive enough to belong. The elevator let me off on the 14th floor. Frosted glass. Soft lighting. A silence trained to sound intentional. A man in his 50s waited by a door with my reflection in his pupils. Sienna Ward? He asked. Nobody in this building should have known that name. Yes, I said anyway. He didn't introduce himself. He just pushed open the door and gestured me inside. The room was small and sunlit. Only one person sat at the conference table. Her. Same bone structure. Same hairline. Same face I used to see when I rehearsed my old name in the mirror. But she was softer around the eyes, like she had never learned to sleep lightly. She looked up and didn't flinch. I was told you wouldn't come in person, she said. I was told you were dead, I answered. The man who escorted me and closed the door and disappeared. No witnesses. No recordings. The air felt sealed. She folded her hands. They didn't tell me your new name. They didn't need to. You weren't supposed to meet me. You were supposed to replace me. She didn't deny it. Her calm wasn't arrogance. It was knowledge. Before you decide what I am, she said, you should know why I agreed. I don't care why, I replied. I care who. She studied me the way people study a locked safe. Finally, she said one name. Elias Ward. I felt the floor tilt without moving. My biological father. The man who lost everything and signed me away before prison swallowed his name. He's dead, I said. She nodded. They told me that too. Then they showed me a file with your birth identity and said it was never legally deactivated. They said you abandoned it and someone needed to formalize it or the trust connected to it would vanish into the state. What trust? She took out a folder and slid it across the table. I didn't touch it. She opened it herself. Inside were 3 documents. A lineage trust from the late 80s. A note of claim established before my adoption. And a reassignment form filed 2 years ago under the name I was born with. Someone had resurrected my past on paper to gain control of money I didn't know existed. You thought you were inheriting something, I said. She shook her head. I was told I was protecting something. I leaned back. Who paid you? She hesitated only once. Harlan Finch, she said. But not directly. Through a family office with your father's name on the paperwork. My father hadn't left money. He left access. Someone else built a fortune in his name and buried it under mine. I stood up. You're done using it. She didn't argue. She just said one sentence that lodged itself under my skin. They're not afraid of you finding me. They're afraid of you finding the account. I walked out without looking back. The receptionist didn't meet my eyes. The elevator didn't make a sound. As soon as the doors closed, my phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. If you go after the trust, you go after the people keeping it off the books. Choose your first move carefully. I didn't reply. I already knew my first move. And my second. And exactly who would break first when I pulled the right thread. I didn't go to my office. I went to the only person who knew how my father operated before everything collapsed, not because he was loyal, but because he was the one who cleaned up after him. Silas Reyes. Former accountant. Former fixer. Still alive because he never asked the wrong questions out loud. He ran a bookkeeping firm in Brooklyn now, the kind with peeling gold lettering on the window and clients who still paid in checks. When I walked in, he looked up once and knew exactly who I used to be. You're not supposed to exist anymore, he said. Neither are half the accounts you buried, I answered. He gestured to the back room. No cameras. No receptionist. Just silence that smelled like ink and old carpet. You came about the trust, he said. I didn't sit. You knew it was still active. I knew it was never dissolved, he corrected. Big difference. Your father set up a structure before prison. Someone maintained it after. I assumed it was you. It wasn't. He nodded like that confirmed a private theory. Then someone used your absence. I placed the forged power of attorney and the passport copy on the desk. He didn't touch them. He just studied the margins. Harlan Finch, he said. Of course. Why them? Because they specialize in making old money look like it just woke up. I leaned in. How big is it? Silas opened a drawer and pulled out a worn binder with no label. He flipped to a page held together with tape. Your father's initial deposit was small, he said. Barely 6 figures. But the man he partnered with. My father didn't have partners. No, Silas agreed. He had predators with better suits. One of them moved the assets offshore before the seizure order. Harlan Finch handled the tax shelters. The account grew under a shell name. When he died, someone needed a legal heir to keep it from dissolving. So they built one. He didn't argue. Where is it now? I asked. He hesitated. Not out of fear. Out of survival instinct. 3 counties away from discovery. 1 transfer away from exposure. And whoever's maintaining it is laundering influence, not cash. Name. Silas shook his head. Names come with consequences. I held his gaze. So do omissions. He closed the binder. You want the account, you don't walk through the door. You pull the floorboards out from under it. I know, I said. I came for the blueprint. A long silence passed. Then he wrote down one thing on a torn page and slid it toward me. Rothwell Family Office, Subdivision C.
Custodian, hala Bron LLP.
Not a bank. A holding structure inside another holding structure. Layers built to bury anyone without teeth. I folded the page and stood. If they used my name, I can use theirs. Silas didn't smile, but something like approval crossed his face. You're your father's daughter after all, he said. I stopped at the door. No. I'm what they were afraid he'd raise. I left before he could answer. Outside, the city moved like nothing was shifting. My phone buzzed again. We warned you once. Don't make us get louder. No name. No threat format. Just certainty. I typed back one word. Louder. Then I hit send and started the part no one prepared for. I didn't wait for them to make the next move. People who send warnings always assume you're still in the reacting phase. I was already past that. By morning, I had everything I needed. A burner laptop. The forged documents tied to my birth name. Silas's note with the custodian firm. And the face of the woman they tried to install in my place. I didn't go after her. I went after the structure that made her possible. Hale and Braun LLP, the custodian named on the file, had a private entry through a side elevator in a building disguised as an insurance co-op. I walked in with a dark suit, no appointment, and a portfolio case that looked legal enough to avoid questions. The receptionist didn't bother asking who I was. That was the thing about firms that handle buried wealth, they only fear people who already know too much. The man who came to meet me introduced himself as Clark Braun, partner. He extended his hand. I didn't take it. "I'm here to discuss the Ward Trust," I said. He froze for half a second, just long enough to confirm he knew exactly what I was talking about. "That file is closed," he said. "Funny," I replied, placing the forged power of attorney on the table, "because someone reopened it without the legal heir." He glanced at the signature. He knew it was good enough to fool a banker, not good enough to fool me. "I want every name tied to the disbursements," I said. "And the routing chain from Harlan Finch. That information is privileged." "So is identity theft," I said. "And interstate fraud. And laundering political donations through offshore proxies. We can trade definitions all day." He didn't call security. He didn't bluff. He just asked one question. "What do you want?" I leaned in. "Access transfer. Full beneficiary correction. And a forensic audit with my signature on the custodian record." "That would expose everyone involved," he said. "That's the point." He hesitated. I let the silence do the work. Finally, he unlocked a drawer and took out a file that did not legally exist. He placed it between us. "The moment I process this," he said, "they'll know it was you." "They already do." I signed the document with the name they tried to bury, not the one I built. He processed it on the spot. Quietly. Quickly. Afraid. By the time I walked out, the trust was no longer theirs to hide behind. Every transaction, name, and shadow transfer was now tethered to me. Not because I wanted the money, because I wanted the leverage. Outside, my phone buzzed with one final message. "What did you do?" I didn't respond. They would find out soon enough. I stood on the sidewalk and let the city move around me. I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was the problem they thought they'd buried. And now I had their entire foundation in my name. The next move wasn't theirs anymore.